title for this speech, because it's not completely impromptu, I had a couple of hours to think about it, but the title for this speech is 3 Secrets to Improve Your Speeches. What I'd like to do with you is share 3 things that I've learned during my 8 years in Toastmasters. When you hear some of these 3 things, some of you may be thinking, well, yeah, I knew that. And if you did, that's great. Because what that means is that you've already come some way down the path to becoming a much better public speaker. But what I can promise you is these 3 things that I'm going to share with you tonight are not things I knew about or understood before I was a Toastmaster. It has been this experience that has shown me how important these are. The other thing is that this is a research and presentation speech, as I just discovered before the meeting. And the research I would argue that I've been doing has been 8 years of membership at Toastmasters. I have never willingly missed a Toastmasters meeting, which means I'm probably in the region of about having attended 200 Toastmasters club meetings now. I've been to between 20 and 30 clubs, mostly around Massachusetts and Rhode Island. I love Toastmasters, I love public speaking. So without further ado, let me share my secrets with you. My first secret is the power of stories. And it seems so obvious to me now, but I really didn't know this before I joined Toastmasters. I would recommend that you always structure your speeches around stories. And I don't just mean Toastmasters club speeches. I mean any speech you have to give in any situation, whether it's for work, for politics, for weddings, or your club. And there are 2 huge reasons for this. The first is that stories are much more interesting for your audience. And if you think about your lives, since we were babies, we've been being told stories. If you go home and watch TV or movies, you're listening to stories. They're what make us tick. And we all know you forget what you hear in a speech very, very quickly. But you don't forget stories. So by including stories like Nate, you just did tonight, and Paul, you started to do in your introduction, stories, your audience will remember them, and they'll remember the things that you say. So that's the first reason. But the second reason, and this is the best bit, is you as the speaker know your own stories. And that means that a large chunk of your speeches you don't need to be trying to memorize. Think about this. If you go out with your friends for a drink and someone says, oh, tell me about that funny thing that happened to you today, you don't get stage fright, do you? You don't forget what happened next. It's the easiest thing in the world to tell the stories that have happened to you. So my recommendation is think about the stories in your speech, structure it around them, and then you're only looking at transitions between them, maybe an introduction and a conclusion, and you've got your speech there. And a step further than that, given that we maybe are having a little difficulty in getting people to sign up for speeches, live your life thinking about the stories that happen to you. When something funny happens to you, think, oh, I'll make a note of that. That would make a great speech topic. I've seen people give speeches about things like being stopped by the police and getting a ticket, and at the time that's a really annoying experience, but they spin it around and think, oh, I've got a Toastmasters speech there. Some people keep story files. For anything interesting that happens, note it down, and next time you're trying to think of a speech topic, you've got something there. Second tip, practice. Who enjoys practicing speeches? Not me. I hate it. I hate it as much as the next person. The difference before and after Toastmasters is this. Before I joined Toastmasters, I thought, well, there's no point practicing because it's nothing like the real thing. You can never replicate the adrenaline. Why would you bother? and I still hate practicing. But I realised that was an excuse, because practicing is about muscle memory. And if you've got words that you are trying to learn in your speech, or a sequence of stories and events, you need to go through it to remember the order in which they happen. Just as also you need to practice the skills. Standing up here and looking out at you is not a strange experience, because I've been doing this for years now. So Toastmasters is about practicing and control of what we're speaking. And so I do recommend doing it. My tip, if you really hate it, is to write notes on the floor of different parts of your speech and then move around. So one bit of your speech here, another bit here, another bit here, and you can use notes on the floor to remind you of what comes next. And very briefly, my final piece of advice is that you can always make your speeches better. One reason why I live for the contests is it's the only real chance I get to keep working on the same speech and making it better and better. And you never get to the point where it's perfect. A recent example of this would be in our club contest a couple of meetings ago. I told a story about my toy bear Rupert being kidnapped and taken to Florida. And I thought, tell a story, it's a funny story, it will work well. And then I realised when I came to look at that I gave away all the suspense straight away in my first line by telling you that he was kidnapped. And so I realised next time in the area contest, I needed to tease a little. I came home, Rupert was missing. Make the audience think, ooh, what's happened? And then reveal. And so it never ceases to amaze me how you can always improve your speeches. So I hope that there was some value there tonight. I hope, like me, you all think of yourselves as Toastmasters for life, because this is not something I will ever leave. It's Toastmasters.